Hello, YouTube! And Twitch chat will be greeting you shortly as well. We've got some more news. We are talking about Janthir Wilds Unleashed, talking about the Warclaw and a couple of details on the open world as well. Pretty interesting. And a little bonus. This actually happened a while ago in a previous patch, but also a change from ArenaNet aimed at kind of dealing with leeching and AFK farming. Really actually cool to see that. We'll be talking about that as well. But anyway, first, let's talk about the Warclaw. Let's make this happen here. Janthir Wilds Unleashed, the enhanced Warclaw mount. So, last week, we laid out the basic premise of the story in Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds, including an introduction to the Lowland Coden who live in the Janthir Isles. This week, we thought we'd take a closer look at the area you'll be exploring, plus another furry denizen of the Janthir region, the Warclaw, which the Lowland Coden called Journeykin. Look, guys, that's pretty cute. I'm not gonna lie, look at that. We got little baby Warclaw here, little ears. You love to see it. Very nice. Arriving at the Lowland Shore. Your first forays into Janthir will take place in the Lowland Shore map, where you'll be able to explore and get to know the locals without the time or coordination pressure of a large-scale map meta event. We designed this map to give everyone a change of pace from the epic scale of content you'll find in maps like ArenaNet and Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure. Instead, you'll be experiencing the lifestyle of the Lowland Coden colony that calls the area home. Try training with the spears of the locals and racing with the local salmon as you enjoy the natural beauty of the area. Okay, so there's actually a lot to talk about here. Okay, so looks like the first map is going to be more of a Grothmar, right? So it's going to be a little bit like Grothmar War Downs, or sorry, Grothmar Valley rather, or it might end up being a little bit like Crystal Oasis, which is kind of a bit more of an ambient thing, or just kind of Path of Fire maps in generals. Look, I'm just going to say it. I think this is actually a little bit worrisome. Now, to be clear, I'm sure there still will be some events. Like, obviously, on Grothmar, you have all the different activities that go on. There's some content there. And I really hope they're mostly just saying here, it's not going to be a map that's entirely meta-oriented. Because I think that's what people want a break from. People don't like the fact that in Anios, it's just the meta event. That's all it is. Stuff like Dragon's End as well falls into this category. Dragon's End and Gardos. I think this is true. I think the peak Guild Wars 2 maps are actually the ones that kind of do this in a hybrid. Stuff like Saitung Province, having this jumping puzzle activity here, the mini dungeon in Zendajun. You have the side meta event of the Leviathan, and then the main meta event as well. And lots of little stories that are going on in all of the different kind of like event paths over there. I will have to say this though, I am concerned about this. And the reason is the following. I want to gently remind everyone that the launch of Janthir Wilds is the story to maps. That is the content, right? Of course, we have the citizens, we have the homesteads and so on, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of replayable endgame loop, we have two maps. We do not have strike missions. We do not have a fractal. We don't have the raid that's coming 3 months later. If one of the two maps essentially is just an explore one and done, then only one map is going to be added to the endgame loop of the game. This is a big concern of mine. I'm already concerned that the launch of the expansion is going to be very content light. And again, like, what's that day 2? What am I doing day 2? What's the grind? Like, what's the goal? What's the reward to go after? What am I doing day 2? When I have an expansion, I don't want to be going back to the previous content the next day. I want to play the new stuff. I want stuff to do with the new stuff. To me, this really puts a lot of pressure on that second map. This second map needs to be good. It needs to be sick. Again, I really think that having the Legendary Spear would change this. If it was like, there's a crazy collection you have to do in both of the maps to get the Legendary Spear day 1, then this wouldn't be a problem to me. But this is just very concerning to me, given how content light the expansion actually is on launch. And also, weirdly enough, I feel that with only 2 maps on launch, I think it's a little bit... it's a bit weird to have a map kind of as non-replayable as this, potentially, and also as one and done. It's okay if you're releasing 5 maps in one expansion, right? Like, does it really matter that you're not going to go back to Desert Highlands after you've done most of the achievements and stuff like that? Honestly, not really, no. But does it matter that there's not really much of a motivation to go back to stuff like the Desolation? I would say yes, absolutely. This is a very major issue. Like, Path of Fire suffers from this a lot. Like, these maps are nowhere near as replayed as the Heart of Thorns maps, right? I think these maps are the absolute gold standard when it comes to Guild Wars 2 because they have these exploration elements. Like, the meta is not the only thing you can do here, right? There's like You can go and hunt down the prime vine tooth, right? Like, you've got all the adventures that you can go and do here as well. You've got all the event chains that kind of funnel into the outpost system in this map as well. All that kind of good. The same with Tangled Depths, and definitely the same with Verdant Brink as well. Some of the best maps in the game. I think these are the things that we kind of want, and I am a little anxious about ArenaNet not trying to essentially replicate what these maps are. Having essentially both, right? Like, it's... I don't know. It's a little bit worrisome to me that this is the case. Will it be a very pretty map? Will it be cool to play through? I think it absolutely will. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't. But again, this only amplifies my concern that we're going to have a low amount of extra end game loop added to the game with the expansion, which I think is a really important part of expansions in general. They're supposed to change the game. They're supposed to give you, something high impact that you want to go after. And the fact that one of the maps is going to be a bit more chill, this is concerning to me. I do think there are ways to have your cake and eat it too. I think the Heart of Thorns maps are really good examples of this, and actually the EOD maps as well. I would say Scything is a fantastic map, both in terms of exploration and kind of non-meta content with the mini dungeon, with like the side events that are going on there. Same with Ekavold as well. There's like a mini dungeon here as well. In this one, you've got a lot of the side events going on as well. Loads of crazy things to explore on this map, like all the underwater stuff, all the secret teleporters going on there as well. I definitely agree with the criticism that many players have of maps like Dragon's End, because I think when a map is just a meta event, you don't want to have too many of these. Like, one of these per expansion, I think, is absolutely fine. But I don't think you want all of the maps to be pure meta in the same way that, like, Guyala, like, what are you doing here if it's not the meta event, right? Like, you're not really doing anything. Same with Dragon's Edge. I think that's a legitimate criticism as well, but I don't like going to the other extreme. I think going to the other extreme is how you end up with Path of Fire, and in my opinion, that really didn't work out. And the fact that people still love the HOT metas to this day, and basically all of these maps are considered to be peak Guild Wars 2 open world, especially something as remarkable as Dragonstand, right? Which is certainly how you do the meta map well, in my opinion, because I think the assault part of it, like all the different steps are really engaging as well. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I really want to see ArenaNet get back to. Soto's open world was mediocre. It really wasn't strong. Like, Skywatch Archipelago and Amnitas, funnily enough, do have the exploration down pretty well, in my opinion. I'll actually defend these maps. Well, I'm going to be derailing. I'm kind of getting into my Sota review, but I think Sota did this pretty well, actually. It does have some, like, pretty interesting little sides. I think the side stories are actually much better than the meta event, actually. Like, the side events in Skywatch Archipelago and Amnitas are more interesting than the main events, in my opinion, at least in terms of the gameplay and kind of, like, the lore that's going on there. It's really, really cool, actually. But, yeah, I can understand people not liking Nios as well. Like, Nios was kind of scuffed, let's be real, but anyway, enough rambling on that. Let's go ahead and move on. Into Janthir Sintry. As you push deeper into the wilds, you'll encounter more reminders of the region's dangerous reputation. Deep forests transition to sulfurous swamps that give way to volcanic terrain. Ruins left by the ravages of time and a bloodstone crater speak of the White Mantle occupation in the time of the original Guild Wars. The barrier between this world and the mists has grown thin in Janthir Sintry, resulting in magical storms called mist tides that sweep the area. And strange creatures known to the scholars of Tyria's past as Titans have begun appearing in greater numbers. Okay, very cool. And this, okay, in my opinion, this map needs to carry the expansion now that we know about this first one, right? This needs to carry the expansion. There needs to be, again, a lot of that cool exploration stuff that we associate with Guild Wars 2 open world, but this meta event needs to be good. It needs to be an absolute banger. They need to go hard on this, make a really fun, engaging encounter. I don't want another epoch here as well. We need to be leaning towards Suwon, towards Mordramoth, right? We need to be, a Chat Garant, right? That's the kind of stuff we need here. This needs to pop off. Certainly a cool theme, actually, and I'm really looking forward to actually seeing all of the kind of ruined architecture. I'm kind of a big fan of that type of visualization as well. Like, I think stuff like the Bastion of the Penitent, right, is an incredible visual feast, right, that we saw in the raid, and kind of translating that into the open world, I think is actually really exciting, to be honest. And I do like that we've got this kind of mist-tide thing. This is kind of giving me some ideas that it's going to be like Jahai Bluffs, where you have kind of those bubbles, and you fly into the bubble, and it's kind of like it's a different world, right? It's like a chunk of a different environment within that. That's like a really cool thing. And that means we're going to hopefully see some really cool enemy variety. Like, enemy variety was definitely a weak point of Soto. It was kind of Cryptis all the way down. But this time around, this means that there's going to be, like, random stuff popping up. There's going to be some white mantle stuff, like maybe some, like, Jade Armors, right? Like, some kind of remnants of the Mersat, all that kind of stuff, right? All these kind of crazy technology things. And you're also going to have these Titans walking around there as well. The Titan meta event had better be good. That's all I'm going to say. It needs to be a good one. Oh, yeah. But that's all the stuff they open world. It's cool to see some details. I'd love to see them go further on this, right? I like, what? Give me more. Give me more. Talk about the encounters. Hype me up, right? Like, I wish they went a little bit harder on this. I'd love to see a stream of these areas as well from the developers. We gotta keep pushing until it happens, right? I'd love to see that. I really would. And show me more. Show me some encounters. Show me some juice, right? Like, get me hyped up. Like, reassure me that there's gonna be some actual stuff to do. Warclaws in the wilds. While in Janthir, you'll have the opportunity to forge a bond with a Warclaw mount and train a new mastery line that grants your Warclaw new skills in PvE maps. The Warclaw is a highly mobile mount that can navigate with precision and agility over all kinds of terrain. And it also boasts some unique combat and exploration abilities. So, what do we got? Chain Pull. Deals damage and pulls enemies closer. Okay, pretty cool. So, kind of a mounted combat thing like the Sky Scale, right? Battle Maul. Commands the Warclaw to leap forward and perform an area attack, stunning enemies at the center of the attack. Ah, look. Look, you got to have a CC ability on a mount, guys, so like people break those Defiance bars, right? Sniff. Enhances nearby allies while detecting nearby enemies. So, ooh, dude, AoE boons? Wait, if you sniff, you give people, like, AoE quickness, right? That's what's going on there. With Mastery Training, Sniff also detects nearby treasure, which your Warclaw can help you dig up. I kind of like that, actually. That's, like, a fun little mechanic, right? You can be riding around on your Warclaw and, like, sniff up little treasure chests, like the arcane chests in Soto. And that's pretty interesting, actually. And then Lance. Oh, another CC ability. So maybe this is going to be some heavy CC. It's probably not going to be able to... Well, the Turtle CC is insane, right? But that does require someone to actually be the gunner. But maybe this can dethrone some stuff like the Bunny, right? With some, like, really powerful CC on it to help people break Defiance bars. Pretty interesting there. And here are the Warclaw's Mastery tiers. 9 lives. Take no fall damage while mounted on your Warclaw. Feline Reflexes. Extend your jump by hitting the spacebar again in midair. Double jump. That's going to be fun to use, I think. Wild Claws. The Warclaw performs a hit on enemies while dodging through them. Hitting at least one foe gives you endurance at the end of the dodge. You can, like, re-dodge again, basically. So, I mean, yeah, again, they're kind of doing the mounted combat thing. Not a huge fan of mounted combat, honestly. I don't like this. It didn't really work out in Soto. I think the Warclaw will be more fun to use than the Sky Scale, to be fair. But, listen, if there's any situation where I'm forced to, like, use the Warclaw exclusively to damage stuff in the meta event, I'm going to cry. I'm going to break down in tears, and nobody wants to see that. So hopefully ArenaNet don't do that. Increases damage while mounted on the Warclaw. The Lance skill now stuns enemies and deals increased damage. Oh yeah, so they're going for the CC thing, right? They're going for the CC thing. Pretty hard on that. And you know what? I kind of like that, right? I think that using mounts is a pretty good way to kind of introduce people to the Defiance Bar concept, so I think that's pretty cool. And then Well Rested. Increase the endurance regeneration rate for all mounts. This is kind of like the running theme. Like, the last mastery on a mount, like, buffs all your other mounts. This one is actually kind of insane, if I'm being honest, right? It depends how strong that is, but that means you can go way faster on your Raptor. You can fly, presumably, significantly better on the Griffin as well, right? That's going to be pretty juicy. With that one, you can do more barrel rolls on your Sky Scale, all this kind of crazy stuff. Like, do more teleportation leaps with your Jackal. Funnily enough, this is, look... All those raid players who don't like doing masteries, you're going to have to do this. That's actually really, really strong for basically any raid winger you can use a mount, which will probably include Wing 8 as well. Just for the speedrunning element there as well. And yeah, seems pretty cool. I do think that there is an issue here, though. I do think they're going to struggle to make the Warclaw actually better than... like the flying mounts, to be honest, in Janthir, without kind of forcing its usage in some sense, because, yeah, double jumping is nice, but you know what's nice? Yeah, flying, right? Being able to actually climb walls. And you know what? Maybe they've actually... I think what they can do here is really design the gameplay, like have almost like little steps that you can hop up on, right? That would be really fun to do on the Walker, and you'll be able to do that very quickly. I think that's what they can kind of do, utilizing that double jump there as well. But yeah, take no falling damage. Guys... We can mount in the air onto the Griffin or onto the Sky Scale, right? Like, falling damage is not relevant whatsoever. So I think it is going to kind of struggle to define itself as a mount. But I do actually really like the idea of, like, going around on it and, like, hunting down treasure, right? All that kind of cool stuff. That's a pretty cool thing. You know, you're hopping around your mount. You're, like, finding little chests, right? And doing all that kind of stuff. It's going to be kind of an interesting thing. Gonna be an interesting thing to see if it ends up being like the Bureau Marches, like chest farming, right? You can sniff them out, do a little farming rotation. All that kind of stuff would be pretty cool. And then, of course, we did actually know about this. They're also reworking the Warclaw a little bit in World versus World. So let's see what's going on here. So what the Warclaw can do now, it can obviously dismount people, right, with the lance. And you can kind of pull down the gate. Pretty useless thing to do, to be honest. But let's see what they've done here. So the refresh of the Warclaw experience comes from our evolving understanding of our mount systems, which we first implemented mounts. Whether you're taking over or defending your territory, the Warclaw will continue to be your steadfast companion with these updated skills. So chain pull, weaken frame, amplifies damage inflicted on gates and walls. This will stack with structural vulnerability. Okay, this is just insane, obviously. If this is even remotely good, you will be using the Warclaw in every single siege operation. This is actually, I mean, this is kind of annoying because you can't mount in combat, right? So if you get into combat, it's going to be really frustrating to actually try and use this. It's going to be a thing that you're almost going to have to do when you're doing like a sneak attack for burst. So it might not end up being as impactful as you might think in contested areas, because it's very easy to knock people off the Warclaw just by doing damage to them in World versus World, and they won't be able to get back on, right? So if you've got any kind of defense, you'll be able to neutralize this as a defender. So that's kind of thing. It really depends how strong this is. Like if it's like 1% per stack, stacking up to 10 times, then, you know, it's just like if you catch people off guard, you can get through the gate a little bit quicker. I think it's not actually probably not actually a huge deal, to be honest, just because of like how easy it is to knock people off the mount in World versus World. Sniff! In addition to its abilities, it will also highlight damaged gates and walls for both allied and enemy structures when ranged. Kind of a nice little quality of life that you can kind of see. Like, where did people get in, right? That's something that happens in World versus World. And you're like, where is it open? Where's the open wall, right? And now the Warclaw can sniff it out. Yeah, it is kind of cool that it works on walls too, actually, right? You can, like, get some more catapult DPS. And then Lance. Increased to 2 charges. So Lance is like the anti-Warclaw thing. You can like dismount people. This is actually very interesting. You know what this is? They're actually making a change to promote roaming. Kind of cool, actually. Because roaming, let's not mess around. Roaming was kind of brutally murdered. Not only by the way the metagame went, but certainly by the Warclaw as well. It's just much harder to kind of get engaged with people these days. Now with the Lance, man, holy shit. If you've got like 2 people chasing you, that's 4 total lances. It's gonna be very difficult to get away. If it's 1, you have to get the dodge check twice, right? You have to dodge the first lance and the second lance. And to be fair, it's pretty easy to dodge the lance. It's not difficult. But if you've wasted a dodge, you are gonna get lance. You're gonna have to fight. So this is actually like a big change to potentially kind of promote roaming here a little bit, actually. With how this operates. So I think that's probably a good thing, right? Certainly a playstyle that I think players are quite fond of, actually, and certainly suffered at the hands of the Warclaw being added into the game mode, I think. Without actually, so I definitely approve. We'll have to see what the cooldown looks like, obviously, and you know, like how they actually balance that, if they change anything else with it, with that lance. But yeah, honestly, these seem pretty okay. I was a little bit worried, to be honest, about ArenaNet going this way and changing the Warclaw in World vs. World 2. But these are some pretty sensible changes. Like Roy and the gang were steering the ship, and they've kind of cooked here as well. I think overall pretty positive, and I think the Warclaw, you know, it definitely is a mount that deserves to be a little bit more juiced up. And I think double jumping is going to be fun, you know, like who doesn't like a little bit of a double jump, guys? You know what I'm saying? It's all good. It's all good. And I think they will definitely design the maps around it in the same way that they kind of designed Soto around the sky scale a fair bit. So look, the good news is we've kind of got all of the lame mounts out of the way. Next, it's going to be the Griffin and the Beetle. Give me a Beetle themed expansion. Yes? Are we going or not? Let's go. Yes? Make it happen, ArenaNet. Beetle drag race themed expansion. That's what we really need. And there you go. That's the news. I think pretty interesting stuff. Some cool details there. I want to see some streams, though. But never mind. Pre-purchasing any editions of Janthir Wilds for the expansion will give you the Homesteader title. Guys, pre-order the game using my referral link. You guys know you want that title? Come on. Get your title, guys. Come on. Do it. Buy the Ultimate Edition, guys. That's what you really got to do. Get the Ultimate. Come on. You know you want to. But anyway, that's it. But of course, we actually do have a little extra bit of news that I have lurking over here on my other monitor. So, Basically, when they added the PvP changes into the game, ArenaNet also did something very interesting. They said the following: updated the behavior of the away from keyboard timer that returns players to the character select screen after extended periods of inactivity. In open world maps, the time remaining before a player who has not manually moved their character performed any skill inputs is returned to character select is now reduced to 5 minutes if the player enters combat. This is the first explicit anti-AFK farmer change ArenaNet has made. It's also anti-leech as well. Like, leeching is a big problem in meta events right now where people AFK, they like tag the boss once, then just AFK and wait for it to be over. That will punish this by disconnecting you, right? You're gonna have to at least move every 5 minutes, which I guess is not much better, but yeah. With that one as well. Yeah, I think this is mostly aimed at AFK. And to be clear, some of you are probably gonna check. As far as I'm aware, it's actually not behaving as intended right now. I actually tested it. I admit it, guys. I went to the AFK farm spot, and we timed it on stream, and it didn't kick me. So it looks like it's not working as of right now. But I think this is a good change. This should actually alleviate the problem fairly significantly unless people go towards full botting. And you know what? Most people are not full botting. I think that's a line that people do not want to cross. People are quite happy to kind of sit around in the AFK farming gray area where you just have the game up on your other monitor and you're just like, you know, you're at your computer, right? But you've just got these accounts like AFK farming. I think people are happy to do that, especially because the TOS is so wonky, to be honest, like about this site. It's very difficult to know if it's even allowed or not. And it's just, you're technically using like in-game, it's an absolute mess, right? It's a fiesta, right? But the reality is, I think there are not as many people who are willing to go say, you know what, I'm actually going to flat out macro the game. I'm going to flat out hack the game and use a bot to do it. I think the amount of people who are willing to do that is significantly lower. So it won't completely alleviate the issue. And I think I want to see more changes. I want to see stuff like you get hit by 100% DR if this happens to you. So if you literally don't move for, let's say, an hour, you stop getting loot entirely, right? And you have to like move a significant amount. You can't just like move 1 centimeter, then you get your loot back. You have to do all. I think this is the first step, right? In this. And I do think ArenaNet need to just flat out enforce their TOS a bit more aggressively on this as well, if we're being honest here. But I like this. You know, I think the important thing is here for people who are concerned about this issue is that ArenaNet are actually taking a step here, right? They pretty much not really engaged with the AFK farming situation ever. And it looks like they are at least thinking about doing it. And I think this is a good start, right? Like, I don't think any innocent player is going to be affected by this. And it certainly will shut down people who aren't willing to macro, who aren't willing to just flat out bot in order to do this. And so you'll still see these people, you'll still see AFK farmers, but they'll be botting, right? And that's actually kind of interesting because that, of course, is a much more clear-cut thing. You can't do that. You're not allowed to do that, which I think gives ArenaNet a bit more, it gives them a bit more wiggle room to swing the hammer. We'll see if they do that. We'll see how this turns out, of course. But it's a little bit of an interesting change there, kind of at the end. A little bit of an interesting change at the end of the news. And that actually is the news. As always, let me know what you think about all these things. Do you like the Warclaw? Do you like the new? Do you like the fact that one of the maps is going to be chill? Are you worried about that like I am? Or do you think it's actually based? I don't know. You guys tell me. Second map as well. Do we think it needs to perform well? And the Warclaw and the AFK farmers? I mean, look, have a discussion down in the comment section, guys. Let me know what the hell is going on. And of course, like, follow, and subscribe. You know, I've heard, check this out. You know that if you say subscribe in a YouTube video, the button actually glows like a cool rainbow thing. It's actually crazy. They've got some AI stuff going on. It's like voice recognition. It's ridiculous. But now, I mean, yeah, take a look. Take a look at the sub button, guys. Maybe it's glowing right now. I don't know. But anyway, that's going to do it for me, guys. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time. I'm out of here.